join the X-Men as they are enjoying the first white Christmas that New York has experienced in years. Aurora, though enjoying it, remembers Snow as being white when Jean tells her that she's as bad as Scott sometimes, who upon hearing this, points out that Kurt and Peter are having fun being out. The two foreigners are enjoying themselves and wave at a pair of women nearby. Sean then excuses both himself and Moira to look at the sights as Jean asks Wolverine what he's going to do when he merely states he has no interest in Christmas. Leaving him, Scott is still unsure if he'll work out as he reminisces about Alex and Lorna attacking them. Jean stops him though, asking him to stop blaming himself. Stepping forward, Jean leans in to kiss Scott as a pair named Jack and Stan comment on how they have no respect for others in public. Later, the pair arrive at a restaurant where Summer says that he loves her when they both hear a loud crashing outside and the roof is ripped off the building, revealing a pair of sentinels there to face them. Reviewing its programming of capturing the two, it informs them that they can nullify their powers to Scott's horror as he sees his optic blast doing nothing. Jean, though, figures they might not know about the new X-Men being more powerful as she's able to knock the Sentinel off balance and outside the building, which allows Cyclops to blast it at full power, destroying it in the air above the city. The other Sentinel, though, blasts Cyclops before he can react as it grabs Jean and gasses her, knocking her out as she warns that Scott had better not be killed. Contacting its base, it informs them of his captive and the now deceased Cyclops. However, we see that Scott is alive, the machine having made an error, but the force of its takeoff knocks him and the wreckage away from the building, and he only has one chance, grabbing a hold of a radio mast. Barely holding on, he hopes he doesn't have to wait for long, as there's no one around to save him. Down below, the destroyed Sentinel crashes to the ground, causing a panic when Sean sees what the debris is and, realizing the danger, quickly dons his uniform, knowing his two friends are going to need help. Banshee tells Moira and Storm to find the others quickly when Aurora asks what a Sentinel is. As Sean takes off, he tells her that to mutants, they're death. Wolverine latches onto him, wanting to join the fight as Storm switches to her costume and takes off. As she flies up, she spots Scott hanging and manages to save him. Glad to see that she's safe from the Sentinels, he tells her that both Wolverine and Banshee were easily taken by more of them when she asks if the Sentinels are large robots as they are suddenly in the midst of a large shadow. The machine blasts at Cyclops, intent on finishing the job of the previous machine, as it states that all who resist must be destroyed. Storm, though, chooses to fight as she faces down the large adversary. It tries to warn that it can counter her powers when the wind picks up and it overloads. Storm tells that it has no defense against a hurricane as it's lifted bodily into the air and explodes high above the city as people watch the unnatural weather occur. Cyclops shouts for her to stop, fearing the destruction of the city when she turns and tells that there's no worry as she has complete control of her powers. Scott then remembers the professor of how he doesn't know about the updated Sentinels and that he needs to be warned. Turning to Charles, we find him in the middle of his vacation where he's joined by a friend of his, Peter Corbeau, as Peter tells him that the binary system he described isn't familiar to him even though they've charted most of the Milky Way galaxy at his work. Charles is hopeful that he might have missed something, but Corbeau is doubtful. He's even run checks through the Fantastic Four and Avengers database, but the star system is still turning up negative. Telling Charles that it might be stress making him believe it, Xavier asks his friend if he thinks him insane when he gets a bite on the line. However, a sentinel rises out of the water and the professor is shocked as he knows his mental abilities should have hidden him as he quickly unleashes a powerful mental bolt at the machine. Managing to strike the enemy, the sentinel falls back into the watery depths, unable to compensate for the attack in time. Charles figures his recent dreams must have sapped his powers, and he turns to Peter, who is busy engaging the boat to run away. Suddenly, Charles is bombarded by images again and screams in agony, causing Peter to be distracted as he's calling in the attack, allowing the Sentinel to burst up through the boat from underneath. Thrown overboard, Peter barely makes it to the surface and screams for Xavier, concerned for him. Looking up, he sees the Sentinel leaving with Charles and overhears it mention solar radiation as he hopes his distress call got out. We jump ahead 4 days to the kidnapped X-Men as Stephen Lang is being mocked by Sean when a technician interrupts Lang to inform him that solar storms are continuing and that they'll have to shut down the Sentinels, as Lang tells him it's alright because they have enough mutants. Another informs him that they aren't sure if Wolverine is one, but the Sentinel stated he is, which is good enough for Stephen, who upon hearing a threat from Wolverine isn't concerned as his shackles are unbreakable. Jean then alludes to him being similar to Nazis, but Stephen says he's merely doing his duty and that mutants are the enemy. Asking why he started with the X-Men, it was a simple matter of them being the biggest threat to the Sentinels, and without them, they're unbeatable, which earns Lang her pity as they aren't so easily defeated. Striking her in a rage, Wolverine reacts quickly, breaking free to defend Jean. Slicing through the guards, Stephen yells for a Sentinel to subdue the mutant, and eager for the fight, Wolverine grins as he's not defenseless this time and carves his way through the machine. Finished with the Sentinel, he turns to find the rest of the kidnappers fleeing, to his dismay as he was looking forward to more action. Banshee is shocked to learn that Wolverine's claws are a part of him when he asks Jean what she's doing. She's in the process of tearing her gown so that she can move easier when Wolverine steps in and rips it for her. Irritated that he ripped it so short, he merely grins and turns away. Eager to leave, the others want to grab the professor first, though Wolverine is unsure as they won't be able to carry him and fight when another Sentinel bursts through the wall. Banshee, though, lets loose a sonic wail as he yells for the others to hurry away as he distracts it. Quickly rejoining them, they spot another Sentinel behind them as they run into a pack of them waiting to strike. Not wanting to stop, they attack with everything they can before the Sentinels can react when Jean notices that something is wrong. Wolverine is glad that the fight's going easy when he's snatched up and is unable to use his claws. Thinking quick, Jean assaults the robot's brain, fusing the circuits and freeing her teammate. However, the machine begins falling towards her, but Banshee manages to save her though as he flies towards Wolverine and grabs him as well. Breaking through the wall, Sean's sonic scream deafens everyone around him. Continuing onward, he bursts through the next wall and is shocked at what he sees as we switch to Cyclops as Kurt checks in on him only to learn that he hasn't found anything. Cerebro hasn't managed to find a trace of the kidnapped X-Men as Kurt worries that Scott is working himself to death. Lashing out that he knows what he's doing, the intruder alarm suddenly goes off, and before he can investigate, Nightcrawler's already teleported to him. Scott recognizes who it is, and upon getting him inside, fills Peter Corbeau in on everything that's happened, and wrapping up the story tells him that the only reason that Cerebro can't find the missing X-Men members must be due to them being dead. Reluctant to accept that fact, Corbeau realizes why the Sentinel was worried about solar flares and tells Cyclops that the X-Men aren't on Earth at all.